Well, hello. I'm sorry about a 10-second delay there. I'm trying to record from home, and I've had a little bit trouble recording from home because it can't automatically parse and go up to the server. I lost several videos last week. I felt like I just had a wasted week. But anyway, I'm going to add this right into Blackboard. I finished chapter 15, and it went pretty seamless. All the way through. We create a table based on an all users table, and you can see that when you do that, there in mine there was 37 rows, and then this is a checkpoint to show you the automatic recovery and then the actual redos and the estimated um, I've got to look that up. MTTR. I've got to look it up. I've been reading this chapter as I did my labs. It talks about the different types of failures in this chapter 15. Statement failures, where a user is doing an SQL statement for any number of reasons, and it can those statements can be DBA statements. It says that a common cause of statement failure is invalid data, usually a format or constraint. And then a second class of non-DBA failures is logic errors. You guys know that for the last year I've been battling a brain fog, and I wondered when I read this if what I would have done at work if I were running a database. Then user process failures for any number of reasons. Say the user exit instead of logging out, and I find myself doing that in NetLab. Uh, just and I think I really should every time disconnect. And then the network failures. You can it says that you can configure it so that there's no single point of failure, but to remember that there's listeners, the network interface cards, and the routes. One of the things that happened to me was just a browser update that would not run, and I had to go back and uh, install um, Firefox 38, I think it was. So um, it says that the listener is unlikely to crash, but there's limits there at the hardware level and the network level. Of course, there's failures. I mean, it just happened. And then user errors is last, where the user, of course, would be the hardest. It says it's the hardest. The user says, I forgot to put a where clause in on my update. So he updated millions of rows instead of one. And then, well, did you commit that? Yeah, I did. So, not even talking about sabotage or anything. People are human, and they make mistakes. And then there's media failures in this, damage to the disk. And you can see where that would happen. Um, a hard drive can have a bad sector, and it doesn't tell you files can still be saved to that bad sector. I don't think that happens as much now as it used to, but it does happen. And then the instant failure, it says it doesn't happen many times, but if it's not a orderly, it's what the term they use, shutdown, then the instance can fail. Um, you can issue a shutdown abort command. Just what I've said all along in this DBA track is that the user and the DBA typically are not the same people. And so there's checks and balances that go along. And I don't believe that all users would have commit and rollback capabilities. I just don't believe that. So anyway, that first lab went fairly well. You do commit those. And what I did was a couple of screenshots. And if you can see, I would run that query. And the book now here says that to repeat step 2, and it's really step 3. You're running that query over and over again. You insert rows in the table over and over again. So I did that several times. I did it 8 times, and there was very little change. And then finally, after I did it a couple more times, then you can see that there's a big change. Excuse me. And then so that's log. Wait a minute. I think I missed. Sorry, what we're doing in the first one is to correct statement failures, and it returns the 37 rows. I've got to pause just for a minute. And then I just did a screenshot on Lab 2 to monitor the instant recovery, and I have not taken the time in Paint to crop anything out, but in this case I just cropped it out so you could see it maybe more clearly. Um, that was Lab 2, and it talks about the mechanics in that lab of instance recovery, the impossibility of database corruption. That's the goal, right? That there's no corruption in the database. And I just have talked about it being able to save files to a bad sector. Now, what I was trying to remember, a critical part is the MTTR. That's the mean time to recover after the event. So I'm sure that a DBA would spend lots of time trying to make sure that that time to recover is as small as it can be. We see a lot of uh, upkeep and backup and that kind of stuff going on in the wee hours of the morning. Somebody, has to really monitor. Our IT administrator here at Sneed, who by the way is also the DBA here at Sneed, because we don't, we're just not big enough to have all those hats. He tries to take Monday off because typically on the weekends he's going to be here for some reason or the other. And through the week, Tuesday through Friday, he's here a lot. So, like when we had a crash, what crashed? I don't remember what server, if it was the email server, the Blackboard server. No, Blackboard is actually housed in, not at Sneed, but something crashed. And he came in. He had to come in on Monday to do that. It's been a while. Now, Lab 15.2 is um, I just went over that, sorry. And then 3 is to look at the importance of checkpoints, redo logs, archive logs. When I ran this, and I wish I still had that screenshot up there, I don't keep them, but it gives you the path right there. And then it had the word no. And I I have graded the labs. A couple of students have turned these labs in, and I was going to go back and check yours to see if yours had the same as mine did. Um, if you take this talks about doing checkpoints, taking the table space offline, taking the data file itself offline, dropping a segment, truncating a table, putting a table space into backup mode. So the things that you would need to do for this backup, the manually initiated checkpoints should never be necessary in normal running, is what it says, but can be useful if you want to test the effect of tuning. So this is something the DBA can do to test and see how it's going. Protect the online redo logs, and I don't know why that keeps popping up. I'm sorry. Oracle doesn't enforce naming conventions for log files, but most organizations do. So that's one of the notes in here. And then archiving mode and the archiver process. it gets a little bit small for me. I made them small to try to keep my file size a little bit bigger. So we're looking at the log mode and the archive showing that it stops. The mode is an attribute of the database. Archiving is an attribute of the instance itself. And then that shows you the screenshots where you go into each one. And then flash recovery, and that's a really short section. Ours does not look like the book. When you do that, uh, we are just not using it as a normal DBA would do. When you change those um, archives, then it will change this, and I don't think I did a screenshot of that very last thing in lab 4. But it says the recovery, then it shows you where that actually is, that flash recovery log. So we're looking at the archive and then the flash recovery area in these last 2 labs. I'm going to try to keep this short because it really does take a lot of parsing time when I have to do it this way. So I hope this helps though, and I hope I'm going to be at Sneed the next couple of days. I'm not sure where because um, I have had various tests this last week, and the only one that really scared me was my lung capacity. Last year I had the same test, and I have those lung capacity tests for a blood deficiency that I have. Last year my lung capacity was 99%. Last Tuesday it was 62. So I'm pretty adamant about not going into the tech building. And so as we speak, I hope they're trying to find me an office and a lab to work in. That's all I'm going to say about that. As Tom Hanks would say, you guys be safe. And if you do come to class Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll be there. Remember that Thursday's when we're going to Progress Rail. And I posted an email. Next week, of course, I'm going to be in Seattle. I'm not sure how much kind of time I'm going to have. So I'm just going to say for right now, this next week, I probably will not be doing Oracle labs. I feel like I can answer email and all that kind of stuff, but the sessions run, of course, till about 5 o'clock every day. And then there's a couple of night things that I want to go to, so I'm just not going to promise to do any labs next week. I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you soon.